If you're out there working hard, wondering what's next, and feeling frustrated and unclear because you're not getting the right answers, this podcast is for you. Stop guessing and start building a future you actually want to be a part of. Welcome to the Be Future Ready podcast, hosted by Sarah Price, brought to you by Living Your Strengths. And it all starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome to Living Your Strengths podcast. I'm Sarah Price. We are going to talk about a topic that I just got off the phone with someone that said, Sarah, I'm really frustrated. I applied to 400 jobs and I'm not hearing back. So I'm jumping online to talk to you about the hidden job market and how people are really getting hired. Because I know 99% of you, especially the clients that I work with, I'm hearing the same thing over and over. So we're going to stop and pause and talk about this for a second. And I'm going to say something that might completely change how you approach your job search. So if you're only applying to jobs online, you're playing the hardest version of the game, because a huge percentage of jobs, guess what? They're never filled through the application process. And if you're in HR or you're a hiring manager or you've been in your career for a while, you know that that's true. Of course, we're going to follow the legal process, right? And post the roles and do what we need to do. Okay, that's a separate topic. But even when roles are posted online, on LinkedIn, on Indeed, on Ladders, on all of these different job boards, on career sites, we already have people in mind before the job even went live. So because someone referred them, someone reached out, or someone was already on our radar, some's brother, sister, son's friend's niece. Okay, and someone called me, or I met someone at a party, or I was at a birthday party, or I met some PTO thing, or I met a networking event. And these are from conversations, which is how people are getting on our radar. So what is the hidden job market? What does that even mean? It's everything that happens before the job is even posted or outside the application process. So let me go over some data here, okay? How do people actually get hired? There's a few things. Number one, through referrals. Someone outside the company says, you should talk to this person. So I was at a dinner the other night and someone just had said, Sarah, listen, in the company that I work at, we're having a really hard time finding data analysts. And I was like, wait, I have two people for you. Because when I do my career and strength coaching, and when I rewrite people's resumes and help them with their LinkedIn, I literally over the last 2 weeks just talked to two data analysts. One is more junior, like 2-3 years out of school, and one has like maybe 10 to 12 years experience. So because I met two people, because I know them, because I would put myself on the line to refer them, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to send you two resumes. So how did that even start? By a conversation. And people don't know what you don't tell them. That's what an executive coach told me once. Okay? So referrals is conversations and relationships. That's what it comes down to. So in the last episode, I talked about what to do and not to do in an interview and in AI, right? We've talked about these in different podcasts. And this is what the data says about referrals. According to the LinkedIn data, which by the way, 98% of recruiters and hiring managers use LinkedIn to find people for their jobs. Sure, you can use Indeed, you can use all these different sites. And I was scrolling through TikTok and Instagram the other day, and it's like, if you're using LinkedIn, blah, 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 you should use something job AI. I don't know, try it. But in my opinion, 25 years experience, if you were looking for a job in the normal ether of jobs, whether it's corporate or events or whatever, unless you're like an actor or a singer and you need an agent and that's a different population of people, right? LinkedIn is the way to go. So you want to use other things, cool. But if I hear one more time, why is LinkedIn so important? I'm not paying to get my LinkedIn updated. Great. Stay invisible. Like, that's your choice. All right, back off my soapbox onto this topic. Out of every 100 resumes, okay, only about 25 are getting to a human. And from that, so let's look at it, okay? Those of you who are data driven. Here's 0 resumes, here's 100. Out of 100 resumes, boop, only 25 get seen. What does that mean to all of the others from 26 to 100? That's going through the applicant tracking system. You're not even getting seen, okay? And you're getting an email like 60 seconds later after you apply to 48 hours later that says, thanks so much, we've chosen another candidate. That's not a human, by the way, okay? So I don't want you to take it personally. That it has nothing to do with you. The system is weeding you out, okay? Then from that 25, I hope you're hearing me, 7% of that 25, those are referrals. And guess what? Out of that tiny 7% of the 100 that applied, guess who's getting hired for that role? 45% of the 7%. Okay? So if you're following with me, 100 people applied, 25 are getting maybe to a human to look at, and they're looking at referrals first. 7% are referrals out of the 100, okay? And 45% of those are getting hired. That's how important talking to a human is and not sitting behind your screen. And that is what the data says. I'm not making that up, okay? That's LinkedIn data, and they're the #1 in the market for finding a job. So what do I want you to do? I want you to text 3 people today if you are looking for a job or in the market, okay? And say, hi, I'm starting to explore new opportunities in data analytics. So if you hear of anything or you know of someone that I should connect with, I'd really appreciate it. Again, people don't know what you don't tell them. So if your friends and your colleagues, etc., LinkedIn calls it a power circle. I'll do that in a LinkedIn podcast and teach you all about that, okay? If you're not connecting with your power circle, they are not sitting there saying, I wonder what Sarah Price is doing and if she's looking for a job. They're in their own world trying to figure things out. You have to be visible, okay? Next, what I want you to do, again, if you're sitting behind your screen and you're not talking to anyone or connecting with anyone, you have a very low chance of getting referred for a job. They will assume that you have a job or you're happy or you're busy and they're in their own life and they didn't even think of you specifically for a role. I know so many data analysts, if I just stay on this data analyst example for a minute, but if I don't know that one of those data analysts is looking or that someone I know is looking for a data analyst in their company, that is not the first thing on my mind when I wake up. You have to let me know, okay? #2, conversations before roles exist. It's huge. So when people build relationships, then when something opens, guess what? They're the first in line. If someone calls me who I know, like, and trust and says, Sarah, I have a really good virtual assistant for you or executive assistant for you, because now I'm out of HR and I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm not going to go into LinkedIn to look for an executive assistant when someone I know, like, and trust just said, I think you should talk to this person, because they're already vetted. That's like a free reference, right? So here's another message you could send. I've been following your work at wherever, Bloomberg, Yahoo, a number of the companies that I worked at, Pillar 4, Abbott Exchange, right? I'd like to learn more about your team and what you're building. People like to talk about themselves and what they're doing. Get connected. So you really need to be visible, because when recruiters recognize your name as not just another applicant, that's when they're going to call you. And by the way, sidebar, if your LinkedIn is not updated or empty or outdated, guess what? You're invisible. You're invisible. So you could have a phenomenal resume and your LinkedIn is empty and outdated. Don't come and complain to me that you have this amazing resume and not an updated LinkedIn profile. And if you have an amazing updated LinkedIn profile and people are reaching out to you and they say, Sarah, I found you on LinkedIn. We have an XYZ HR open position. Can you send me your resume? And now you're scrambling and clients are calling me, Sarah, can you write my resume? Because they don't want to go through AI to have to write their resume because like in a previous podcast, they're going to sound like everyone else, right? And now you're not prepared. You don't have a resume and you don't have LinkedIn. So even if you get referred, you have to have the right tools ready. You don't want to just be another applicant, okay? So I'll cover that in another podcast because again, that's a whole other thing we could talk about. I want you to engage on LinkedIn 3 times a week. That's the next thing I want you to do. I want you to log into LinkedIn. I want you to look for the companies that you're excited about working with or the people that you want to follow. And I want you to comment thoughtfully in their posts. And I want you to share insights and I want you to be present. And most people miss this. Why? Because it feels uncomfortable and it feels easier just to sit behind your computer and apply. But easier doesn't work. So here's a real story. Like I've mentioned, I've seen candidates apply to hundreds of jobs and nothing is happening. But once they start having conversations and they start showing up, that could be on LinkedIn, that could be in coffee chats, that could be in meetups, that could be in networking events, that could be in clubs that they join, go to a skill pop, interviews start showing up, okay? The next thing I wanna cover is, because I thought about this and you're sitting here thinking, well, I'm 18, I'm 23, I'm 35, I'm 54, right? Because we're talking about careers for everyone. Why reaching out feels so hard and why it's not just you. So I want you to normalize something because if it feels uncomfortable, you're not alone. The data actually shows this pretty clearly. So let's just start out with younger professionals. So for younger professionals, especially if you're 18 to 24, over 40% say that they feel anxious about professional communication. So if you're a parent and you're listening to this right now in your car and you have your 18 to 24-year-old in the car or not, I want you to know that. Over 40% say they feel anxious about professional communication, and almost half say they avoid networking because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing. Why? Because we put them behind a screen and we quarantine them for 3 years. That's another soapbox and another podcast of why our kids literally can't communicate. And I'm talking from experience because I have a 15 and 19-year-old, okay? For professionals in that 24 to 35 range, over 60% of you say that networking feels inauthentic or transactional. And about 70% of people experiencing imposter syndrome or confidence issues at some point in their career. Because you don't feel good enough and you don't feel smart enough for whatever job. And so you're 80% or 90% qualified for a job and you're still not applying and reaching out to anyone. Again, another topic. So when you get into your 35 and plus, more than half of the professionals say they struggle to reposition themselves when they're looking for something new. And across the board, this just isn't you. So I want you to reach out to people in text. I want you to step out of the house in whatever you feel like you need to do. Go to 1 thing or 2 things a week. And if you're really active because you're not employed and you need a job, you should not be behind your computer. 30% that time behind your computer, 70% of your time out and about. So if you have any questions, let me know in the chat. This is what I do for a living. I can help you write your resume, your LinkedIn. We can coach. I want you to be successful. So please reach out to me, start having real conversations, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining us. Now, take the momentum and share this episode with someone in your world who is ready to stop guessing and start building. For personalized one-on-one strategy, book your free consultation with Sarah at livingyourstrengths.com. New episodes drop every Monday, so hit follow and never miss a breakthrough. Now go live in your strengths. This podcast is filmed at the Make Your Day Richer studio and edited by Richard Wilmore.